Hello everyone, this is Professor Hill. This is a short video for our class, Introduction to Ethics Philosophy 2306, here at St. Philip's College. This is the fall 2018 semester. This is the online version of the class. Today is Thursday, October the 4th. And we're looking at Chapter 4 in our textbook, Doing Ethics by Louis Vaughan. Now, I walked through a little bit of this yesterday, and what I said was that chapters 4, 5, and 6, remember we skipped chapter 3, kind of all come together as a group. Because what happens is chapter 4, the chapter we're looking at now, it kind of sets up this big divide between consequentialist theories and non-consequentialist theories. And then chapters 5 and 6 go into them in more depth. And so we began by saying, look, chapter 4 is going to introduce both sides of this equation. And we talked a little bit about consequentialist theory yesterday and talked about utilitarianism and ethical egoism as examples of moral theories that are focused on the outcomes or the consequences and use those to kind of back up and determine what's the right thing to do. So it turns out that today we're going to look at the other half of the chapter, because you got to remember this is chapter 4. It's introducing both. It also introduces non-consequentialist, or what they call deontological moral theories. And these are theories which are saying, okay, no, look, it's not about the outcomes. It's about rules or principles that we're going to follow. And when we do that, that's how we know we're doing the right thing. That good and bad, right and wrong, dictates that we should find these rules and follow these rules. And that's how we know we're doing the right thing. So, for example, well, I mentioned yesterday with the utilitarian approach that it made sense kind of intuitively to some people that we would take into account utilitarian as saying that, it's what's the most good for the most people. And I talked about public policy around things like, cars and transportation, and we collect taxes and then we put in place a plan which helps everybody get around in terms of where we build roads and bridges and these kind of things. And that seems to make sense, that if traffic is being alleviated with the goal of what's the best thing for the most people, that kind of helps everybody. It's a good use, a good approach for public spending, for example, on transportation issues. That's by definition, though, looking at the outcome and using that to back up and determine what's the right thing to do with this pot of money. Well, but look, let's switch to the other side. And now when we get to non-consequentialist theories, it's more like this. Let's say you're walking across a field and you find a wallet and you open it up, and inside it's got $1,000 in cash in it. And you're thinking, woo, I got $1,000 in cash. And then all of a sudden you look, and sure enough, inside is a driver's license, an address, a phone number, a business card, everything you need to get a hold of the person. And now you're thinking, okay, this person lost their wallet. I should give them back their wallet. It's their money. I know who it belongs to. I should give it to them. And it's not just like, a brown bag full of cash. It actually is a wallet with somebody's name, address, everything you need there. So now you're thinking, look, even though the consequence is that I don't get to keep this money that I wanted to keep, you're thinking, well, the right thing to do is to return it. Well, if you think so, why? Why is that the right thing? It is the right thing to do in this situation. Why? Is there a rule that says we need to do that? And if so, the theory goes, the moral theory behind this is, look, don't pay attention to the consequences. There's just a rule: return the wallet. You need to follow it. That's how you know that you're doing the right thing. Now, when we start talking about rules like this, so we got to raise some questions about them. And you'll see, especially when we get to chapter 6, which is going to look at all of this in more detail, we've got to address serious questions like, how do we know these are the rules? Where did they come from? Do they apply in every situation? Or should we bring over some of the situational ethics in terms of the application of these rules? That gets complicated. For today, we're just introducing in chapter 4 this big seesaw between consequentialist and non-consequentialist moral theories. And on this side, we're not going, it's not, let me say a word about this. It's not that we're not going to pay attention to the consequences or we don't know what they are. Here's the thing. When we look at these moral theories, they're going to know that there are consequences. And they might even regret them or they might be happy about them. But what they're going to say is they don't matter to us in terms of backing up and deciding what's the right thing to do. Because what we're going to do is follow the rules, the principles, regardless of them. So what are they? Two of the ones that he talks about, at least get introduced in chapter 4 in our text, is the theory by Immanuel Kant, talking about categorical imperatives. And also they mentioned Thomas Aquinas and natural law theory. Again, both of these are going to get more attention and a little bit more in-depth treatment in chapter 5 after this. Chapter 6. But because chapter 5 is the consequentials, 6 is the non-consequentials. But in chapter 6, you'll hear more about Kant, Immanuel Kant, and Thomas Aquinas. These are philosophers who developed deontological theories. Kant is famous for two things you'll see introduced here and explored more in chapter 6. And that is a sense that there are rules and principles. He's going to call these categorical imperatives. These are rules you have to follow all the time. Now, he's going to distinguish that between that and some other types of imperatives and other types of duties that go with them. But you just need to know right now that he's saying, look, there are some things, they're just rules. And given the nature of this rule, it's a categorical imperative. You have to follow it every time. And he gives a couple of examples. And one of his most famous ones is just lying. Saying you can't lie ever. It's always the wrong thing to do to lie. You should always tell the truth. And that's a rule. And so we're going to talk about that and apply it to our case study. But let me introduce the second one, which is Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas, much further back in history, you're talking about 12th century Roman Catholic priest, saint, doctor of the church. And he, as it turns out, says, look, action is morally right if it follows the dictates of nature. He develops a natural law theory which says that there is in place a natural order. It comes from God. He has developed the whole universe and everything in it with a plan and with particular types of natures, and that we need to act in accordance with the nature of things according to this large plan. For both Immanuel Kant's theories about categorical imperatives and Thomas Aquinas' theories about natural law and about how we should follow them, what they have in common is that they're not going to be looking to the outcomes and what happens in order to determine what's right and wrong. They're going to say, to figure out the right thing to do in any difficult ethical situation, we got to check the rules. There's a rule book, and then we look at that rule and apply that rule, and that's how you know you're doing the right thing. And so it's kind of like, finding the wallet. They're saying that, look, there's a right thing to do in that situation, and then you should do it. Even if it cuts against your personal interests, hey, even if you need $1,000 in cash right away, it's still going to be the right thing to do to return that wallet. It's going to be the right thing to do to never lie. Even if it's awkward socially, if you got some reason not to tell the truth, you should just gut up, tell the truth, and let the chips fall where they may. That's kind of what non-consequentialist moral theories have in common. And so again, that's the one half of the seesaw that we're kind of laying out here in chapter 4. I'll talk some more tomorrow about, now that we see the two different sides of this equation, and we've got this kind of big dichotomy, what does it mean as we approach our case study and apply it there? What has that got to do with intentions and actions and how we apply these theories to our case study? All right, more soon. Bye-bye.